Madam President, Minister President of Flanders, distinguished guests, 1 year after the Antwerp Declaration, I am pleased to welcome you once again to our port city, which boasts a long industrial tradition. This very building once housed the world's first dedicated commodity exchange, as you said, the mother of all stock exchanges. It was built by a German emperor, by the way. And the London Stock Exchange is a copy of this building, not the other way around. This was the first. In the 16th century, Antwerp's golden age, this place was the epicenter of European trade. From an economic powerhouse then, it has been transformed into a house of leisure today. And hopefully this transformation will not be symbolic for what will happen to the European economy. We don't want to become a museum where the rest of the world comes to visit to look at what once was the epicenter of Western civilization. On the contrary, I do hope that this historic location may inspire us to keep our European economy resilient throughout the 21st century. Frau Präsidentin, es ist sehr zu begrüßen, dass Sie heute persönlich nach Antwerpen kommen, um die neue europäische Initiative vorzulegen. Es ist ein wichtiges Signal, dass der Hilferuf der Industrie von der Europäischen Kommission gehört wird. Ich begrüße Ihre Zusage, Maßnahmen zu ergreifen, um den negativen Trend umzukehren. Because, dear guests, our European industry is struggling. Compared to 2021, industrial production in the Eurozone has declined by 3%. In Germany, it declined by 7%, and in this country, even by 9%. Some argue that the decline of industry is a natural evolution and that we must accept that Western Europe is transitioning into a purely service-based economy. I could not disagree more. Without industry, the Belgian and European economies cannot grow structurally and sustainably or even be maintained. Each country faces its own specific challenges. In Belgium, these include energy costs, labour costs and permit policies. Together with the regional governments, the federal government will tackle these challenges to the fullest extent of our national and regional competences. First and foremost, through a long-term vision for energy. From now on, we will approach the supply issue with an open mind towards innovation and technology, and without ideological prejudice against any solution. The ban on nuclear energy was a grave mistake that we hope to correct as soon as possible. And I was particularly happy to hear that the future Bundeskanzler Merz wants to go in the same direction in Germany. We are also implementing measures specifically aimed at energy-intensive industries, including a reduction in transmission network tariffs. Secondly, there's labour cost. Our workforce is among the best educated and most productive in the world. It's an incredible asset. However, rising labour costs threaten to price us out of the market. By lowering labour taxes, we will reduce the tax wedge, which is unfortunately amongst the highest in Europe. And thirdly, we will also improve our permit policies. Through the Make 2030 agenda, we will work with the regional governments and industry sectors to ensure that policies at different levels are aligned and mutually reinforcing, so that our industry can grow once again. Dear guests, we support the philosophy behind the Net Zero Industry Act. However, while developing new clean industries, we must not lose sight of the competitiveness of our existing companies. There is no point in subjecting our industries to regulations that push them out of the market, forcing them to relocate to regions with less strict climate policies. Neither our economy nor the climate benefits from such an outcome. A few years ago, I visited the BASF headquarters in Ludwigshafen, where Vorstandsvorsitzender Martin Brudermüller showed me the thousands of pages of European regulation on the petrochemical industry. All well intended, no doubt about that. But the best regulation will not get us very far if there's nobody left to comply. Or if new sectors like AI never even come into existence in Europe. Last year, our industrial companies issued a justified call for help to Europe. And I'm pleased to see that today 880 companies from 25 sectors are already expressing their support for the EU industrial deal. There is hope once again. Madam President, as an export nation, we are deeply grateful for your continuing efforts in this regard. Free trade and economic integration have brought prosperity to Europe, and we must avoid becoming entangled in a global trade war. While Europe should strive to remain open for business, we must also address more effectively the negative consequences that globalization and free trade can have on our societies. Nonetheless, we must not undermine the fundamental principles that have driven our economic success. So allow me to conclude with a threefold appeal towards my European colleagues. 1. Let us strengthen and not undermine the internal market. The subsidy race amongst certain member states to attract industrial projects away from their neighbouring countries is detrimental to the EU's greatest strength, its internal market. Let us go for that and not destroy it. 2. Let us reduce unnecessary burdens. Our current regulatory environment is overly complex and not in line with market realities. We must work rapidly and thoroughly to ease regulatory pressures. 3. Finally, the geopolitical context compels us to take swift action in establishing a truly European defence industry. National defence investments must inevitably increase, certainly in this country. But greater coordination and closer cooperation at the European level will ensure that these expenditures are used as effectively as possible. We must build an industrial complex within Europe that helps fulfil the core responsibility of every government, and that is to ensure the security of our citizens. We're living in complicated times. Yet another challenge, just what we needed, another challenge. Dear guests, I look forward to a productive afternoon, and I'm truly honoured to give the floor to the President of the European Commission. Madame von der Leyen, the fact that you came to this city, my city, to outline your plans for the coming years is an honour that we appreciate very much. Dafür danke ich Ihnen sehr. I thank you.